What really happens to your brain and your life when you consume porn daily? Want to know what really happens when you watch porn every day? Before you read this, just a heads up, you might be surprised. Did you know that teenage boys today can see more hyper-stimulating images in a single afternoon than the most exposed adult a century ago ever would? Imagine a dopamine surge so intense that it reprograms your brain to want more, not just in porn, but in all areas of life. What if this stuff actually rewires your desire pathways, making normal intimacy feel dull? If your jaws drop so far it hit the floor, stay tuned. This is a 15-minute crash course into how hardcore visual porn affects our deepest neural circuits and what we can do about it. The primitive driver beneath our screens, why porn hooks us. So deeply, pornography doesn't just entertain, it penetrates our brain's most ancient and primal circuits, rooted in a tiny structure called the hypothalamus, often referred to as our brain's drive hub. This is no accident. Evolution hardwired this region to regulate essential survival behaviors, like hunger, thirst, aggression, and yes, sex. These aren't casual urges, they're non-negotiable instincts that helped our ancestors survive and pass on their genes. Now let's pause here. Whether you personally value porn, avoid it, or feel conflicted about it, the biological reality remains unchanged. The act of sperm meeting egg is the foundation of human continuation. Our reward systems, the dopaminergic pathways, particularly those connected to the mesolimbic circuit, are engineered to give us a hit of pleasure and satisfaction when we engage in behaviors that are evolutionarily beneficial. Sex, of course, is one of the most powerful of those. But here's where the problem begins: the modern hijack. When natural circuits meet, digital overload porn doesn't just stimulate these circuits, it hijacks them. In nature, finding a mate, attracting them, engaging in intimacy, all these steps used to require effort, risk, timing, and emotional navigation. The reward system was designed to fire just enough to keep us pursuing it. But in today's digital world, those steps are bypassed entirely. With just a few taps, you're flooded with hyper-curated, high-definition, algorithm-optimized sexual stimuli. On demand, endlessly. Dr. Anna Lembke, a Stanford professor of psychiatry and author of Dopamine Nation, explains that porn acts like a supernormal stimulus, an exaggerated version of what our brain is naturally drawn to. It's like eating sugar-coated fruit that's been genetically modified to be 50% sweeter than anything found in nature. Our brains light up too much, too fast, too often, and that's where the loop starts. The more you engage, the more your brain craves that version of sexual satisfaction. Not real intimacy, not connection, but dopaminergic hits triggered by pixels. Real-life example: the autopilot trap. Ever find yourself scrolling through porn without even really wanting to? You're not alone, and you're not broken. Take Jake, a 29-year-old software engineer. He described how his porn habit went from occasional curiosity to compulsive nightly ritual. It stopped being about desire, he said. It became something I did out of habit, almost like checking email. I'd finish and wonder, why did I even do that? I wasn't even turned on. What Jake and many others experience is the consequence of neural conditioning. Over time, the brain learns to associate boredom, loneliness, stress, or even procrastination with the solution of a quick dopamine burst via porn. It's not about desire, it's about escaping discomfort with something the brain now sees as instantly rewarding. Expert insight: the biology of autopilot behavior. According to Dr. Donald Hilton, a neurosurgeon and author of The Pornography Epidemic, this autopilot behavior stems from a shift in brain function. When the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of the brain, is repeatedly bypassed by impulsive reward-seeking behavior, we begin operating more from the limbic system. That's where habits, reflexes, and emotional memory take over. It's not conscious, it's automatic. In other words, repeated exposure to porn doesn't just shape your preferences, it restructures your brain's operating system, and it does so silently, one click at a time. The escalation loop. Why one video is never enough. Have you ever noticed how the same category that once excited you now feels boring? That's not just a shift in taste, it's a biological phenomenon called desensitization. Each time you watch porn, especially in high frequency, your brain releases dopamine. But over time, those receptors downregulate. In simple terms, it takes more to feel the same. This leads many users to escalate, trying more intense, taboo, or extreme content. Not necessarily because they want to, but because their brain needs stronger stimulation to achieve the same reward. It's the same mechanism seen in gambling addiction and substance use. The bottom line, we're wired for sex, but not for this. Porn is not inherently evil, nor is it inherently harmless. But what makes it so addictive and potentially damaging is how it plugs into ancient systems with modern firepower. Our brains evolved over thousands of years to respond to subtle cues of attraction, connection, and mating opportunity. Today, a teenager with a smartphone can access more sexual stimuli in 30 minutes than his ancestors might have seen in a lifetime. That's not freedom, it's overload. And when we engage with that overload regularly, we don't just affect our moment-to-moment desires, we begin rewiring our long-term expectations of intimacy, relationships, and arousal. In short, porn taps into primitive drivers that were never designed for constant, high-octane stimulation. What we once used for reproduction has now become a form of self-soothing, stress management, and digital escapism. But the cost? It's being paid deep inside your brain's most ancient wiring. 1. Pornography as a superstimulus. The concept of superstimulus comes from animal behavior studies. Take the stickleback fish. They're hardwired to attack red-bellied rivals. Present one with a bigger, brighter red dot, and it goes berserk, more so than with any natural rival. That's a super stimulus. Porn is analogous. It's an unnatural visual extreme, more intense than real life, and hence triggers a dopamine avalanche. Human brains wired for reproduction get hijacked. Dopamine doesn't just feel good, it reinforces the exact neural patterns that led to the experience. Over time, that powerful, easily accessible shortcut begins to dominate our reward systems. Second, compulsion versus conscious choice. Users often share that porn feels compulsive, not desired. It resembles an eating disorder. They know they shouldn't but can't stop. It's not broken humans. It's a reinforced neural personality taking over, wired up by repeated dopamine hits. Third, porn versus regular sexuality. Sexual behavior in a typical evolutionary context involves novelty, investment, and social bonding. Porn bypasses all of that. Bypasses effort. No need for social risk, rejection, or emotional connection. No real engagement, just a dopamine shot. Amplifies novelty. The dopamine system also rewards novelty, so even porn tends to escalate, from basic content to more extreme fetishized stuff. This is a textbook addiction cycle. Escalate, short-lived reward, reduced response, chase more intense images. Repeat. 4. The analogous trap of processed foods. A parallel exists in food. Our taste buds and gut neurons evolved to detect essential nutrients, proteins and healthy fats, but not processed junk. Yet high-sugar, high-fat foods provide dopamine plus gut signals that resemble nutrient intake without the substance. Your body responds the same. More, please, but never achieves satisfaction. That's why one chip leads to empty cravings. 5. Breaking the pattern. Here's the hopeful part. We can retrain our brain and body for food. Eat whole foods, meats, vegetables, unprocessed starches. Notice how single-ingredient meals signal fullness. Steak, broccoli, eat until satisfied. Remove processed condiments and junk. Reset taste buds. After a week, plain meals feel flavorful again. For porn, avoid escalation. Drop the extreme videos. Engage in healthier dopamine sources. Creative work, exercise, new social situations. Treat it like an addiction. Limit visual stimuli. Reset your brain's reward expectations. 6. Young brains in development. Adolescents' brains are highly plastic, meaning experiences shape wiring. Most early sexual experiences now involve porn, not intimacy. That trains kids to be voyeurs, wire arousal to images, not real connection. Once that pattern takes hold, learning real-world intimacy becomes harder. 7. Real science says what? Animal superstimulus research shows that exaggerated signals override natural ones. Human behavioral studies link excessive porn to decreased arousal to everyday intimacy. Neuroscience, fMRI, detects altered dopamine circuitry in high-use individuals. 8. Practical and personal examples. Case study. A 20-year-old binge watcher feels bored in real relationships. He reports partners appear less intense than his blazing screen. Solution. 90-day porn reboot. Gradually return to baseline desire levels. Personal testimony. After 3 weeks without porn, I realized sex with my partner felt like a restored connection, not a dopamine chase. Academic insight. Researchers, Brand et al., 2016, found that men with high porn use showed reduced neural response in reward centers during real-life intimacy. Evidence of dopamine desensitization. 9. Actionable steps right now. 1. Take inventory. How often are you turning to porn? Under stress? Boredom? 2. Set boundaries. No porn after X p.m. No porn WF unless... 3. Restart your stimuli. Reintroduce non-porn hobbies, music, cooking, sports. 4th, time-limited resets. Try a 30 to 90-day challenge. Track mood, relationships, arousal. 5, get support. Online communities, Reboot Nation, r/nofap, etc. offer tracking tools and group support. 10, what happens over time? Timeline chart. Days what you might feel and observe, 0 to 7, heightened cravings. Boredom, irritability, 8 to 14. First glimmers of calm, mood stability, 15 to 30. Real connection with others returns. 30 to 90, resensitized arousal, deeper intimacy, improved focus. Conclusion, are you still in control? Porn may feel harmless, but unchecked. It can hijack your neural reward systems, hijacking your attention, relationships, mood. The upside, human brains are resilient. With intention and recalibration, you can break dependency, restoring natural dopamine balance and real intimacy. Reset your reward system with real-life connection. Close the novelty loop that porn creates. Redirect dopamine to life, creativity, exercise, parenting, relationships. If this advice hits home at all, hit like, share with a friend, subscribe for more, and let me know. What's the first step you're going to take today? Let's talk in the comments.